So welcome everyone. Today it is my pleasure to introduce our guest, Justin Balog, who is a photographer and educator from somewhere in Colorado, if I'm right. And I got to
Yep, that's exactly right.
I got to know Justin some months ago when I was planning a trip to the Moab area in Utah, and I discovered he had some very interesting and beautiful tutorials about shooting the landscapes around Moab. Today, Mathieu Gasquet will be my co-host. We'll alternate asking questions to Justin. And so let's just start right away. Justin, if you want just to tell us a bit about you, about your photography, what you do in your life.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. This is a really cool opportunity. Like you said, we met online talking about Moab, which is about a 6-hour drive from where I'm at in Colorado. So this is really exciting to be, hanging out with you and talking to you who are on the other side of the world. And I've seen your pictures from Moab, and that was awesome. And I'm glad that we were able to help you out there. And yeah, so for me, I guess my primary interest of photography is bike racing and a kind of a event documentary stuff. That's the stuff that I really enjoy doing, and that's a lifelong passion of cycling that kind of has led up to that. But I also enjoy just kind of documentary style, I guess, photography. We just got back from Belize. I'm with site there, you can probably see it, the Photo Frontier, and we were just in Belize working on a project trying to bring photo tourism to the country. So we were working with a couple resorts down there as well as the tourism board, and so you'll probably hear about that very soon, much like we did in Moab. So that's kind of what I'm into and what I've been up to, and I think that's it, and you'll probably learn more about me as we go along. So I guess we
Sure.
just
So you do workshops on location?
We do both. If there's a very special location, we do. So Moab is a place that we traditionally host location workshops. We host several here in Colorado throughout the year that correspond with the seasons, and then our first international one will be in Belize, which is a very, very exciting country to visit because I think a lot of people don't understand how rich it is both culturally as well as photographic opportunities. There's, it's a very small nation. It was still part of the British Commonwealth, but it received its independence in 1982, I believe. So it's a great infrastructure there. But you also have, everything from traditional kind of Caribbean landscapes, but then as you go more inland, you get into some of the largest Mayan ruins in the world. The culture is very rich there. It's a blend of 4 distinct cultures. So you have a lot of interesting kind of traditional or travel opportunities within a small space. And then there's also beautiful jungles full of wildlife. So that's kind of where we will be bringing our next workshop in 2015.
Great. I don't know much about Belize, but a few people that have talked to me about it, they always mention that as a place for scuba diving. Do you do any of that, or underwater photography?
Yeah. So I originally discovered Belize. It's kind of a funny story. I guess I'm probably most known for my mobile and my iPhone photography, and the marketer that with this resort that we work with had been a friend of mine and a fan of mine for a long time, and so he brought me down there to do a photo guide for them. So on our site we publish photography guides, and I went down there with the exact same attitude. I only know Belize because of scuba diving. I've been a diver for 20 years now, and that's what we went down there thinking, and boy, were we surprised at everything else Belize has to offer, including these Mayan ruins that are massive. They're huge. It's an incredible archaeological sites to photograph, and then the culture there is just beautiful and rich because there are so many distinct and different cultures that have come together in Belize.
So if I wanted to come down there, what would be the best time of the year?
Um, Kind of now, November, or early spring, like February or March. Belize is, subject to the same concerns anywhere else in the Caribbean does with hurricanes. So hurricane season's usually April or May through October to November, and then after that, there's kind of a short period of a little bit of moisture, and then it's pretty much the dry season after that. So I would say, your days are going to be shorter, obviously, but if you want to avoid hurricanes and not take any chances, you want to kind of go November through April, I would say.
Cool. I'm sure it's a beautiful place. So let's talk a bit about what is the main topic of our series of interviews, and that is equipment, and especially mirrorless cameras. And the reason I asked you for this interview is because I learned that you recently started using mirrorless cameras. Can you tell us a bit about your choice of equipment? What are you using to shoot now? If you move to mirrorless cameras from a different system, and why did you make that specific choice?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. It's been an interesting journey for me. As I mentioned, I've known a lot from my mobile photography, and I wrote the first book on it and wrote the first tutorial on it that millions of people have read, and I kind of fell in love with just kind of that idea of a fixed lens. It's an interesting, I wouldn't say challenge or whatnot, but it's a great focal length. The iPhone at the time I think was around a 40 millimeter equivalent lens. Way back when on the iPhone 3, maybe even the 4. And so I really liked that, but it had some limitations, and so I got into the Fuji X100 when it first came out, and that's what kind of got me into, the Fuji sphere initially, and that's kind of why I continue to go that way. So the X100 had some quirks, and then I got the X100S, which resolved a lot of those quirks. And I really fell in love with that just idea of basically a 35 millimeter equivalent lens, and was able to easily adapt the style I had developed through mobile photography into the Fuji world, and the Fuji world is just great. The Fuji X100S, I haven't had the opportunity to use the X100T, but there's obviously quite a bit different than a mobile device because you have a much brighter lens. You're able to shoot at 2.0 with the built-in ND filter and bright sunlight, which is kind of a control or artistic toolbox that you don't have with the mobile device. And then it's just a classic camera. I really embraced that and started a project with a 35 millimeter lens. And then beyond that, I continued to migrate into the Fujiverse even further with the XE2s, and really love those cameras. And so from that, I developed a travel kit that was basically the X100S, and then I had a XE1 with a 55 to 200 millimeter lens, and then I'd carry a 14 millimeter wide with me, and that was basically my travel kit because I could fit it in a small satchel, go anywhere, and that was a really refreshing departure from carrying two Nikon bodies, a complement, fully complement of lenses, even if they were like a 28 to 300 kind of the vacation Nikon lens on a full frame body. I mean that lens and that body alone was more than my entire Fuji kit. So I kind of explored that for a long time, and I continue to do that. I took that kit through the Panama Canal this spring. I've taken that kit to Belize twice now, and I took it to that Moab video you're talking about. I photographed that and filmed that entire Moab video workshop on Fuji XE1 with my X100S.
Cool. So you're basically traveling with a wide angle lens and a long zoom, and the X100S too, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. So most time I have the 55 to 200 on the X's, and then the X100S, and it's personal preference for me. 3 years ago, I conducted an experiment where I took a Nikon. What was it? Basically, at the time, it was an 18 to 200. I took that as a single lens on a road trip through the Nevada desert, and when I came back, I had analyzed. It was about a 7-day trip. I analyzed what focal length I most commonly used, and it was basically trying to figure out and calibrate what my eye normally saw. And I considered myself as having telephoto eyes, because I found that most of my images that I were making were 100 and I guess 30 millimeter to 200 millimeter, so on a crop sensor, whatever that equation is. So that's my natural inclination to photograph, is with a longer lens. So I have that on my X's. Then I have the X100S, and then if this grand seascape or landscape, or if I'm in a tight space presents itself, I'll put the 14 millimeter on.
Mathieu, of course, if you want to chime in with any questions and so on, just do.
Of course.
What I meant to say. Your website is thephotofrontier.net. Is that right?
Photofrontier.com. Yep.
Yeah. .com, not .net.
Yep.
Do you want to tell us a bit about it?
Yeah. So thephotofrontier.com is something that we started. A good friend of mine, Armando Martinez, he's the co-founder of it, and he kind of comes from a professional retouching background. I mean, he has Lightroom and photography, Lightroom and Photoshop master, and then I came from it from a different perspective with a lot of the mobile photography that I had been doing. We decided to have some workshops and create some video courses for fellow photography enthusiasts to kind of jumpstart their photography. And so we started it, I guess, about 1.5 years ago with that idea, and then we've continued to evolve it to where we're doing a lot of reviews and our photo guides that are all free for people to look at if they're headed to Moab or Belize or California or France or whatever they're headed. We have a bunch of free photo guides published there, and then in our newsletter we publish a lot of kind of exclusive stories about the various places we visit, along with some pretty regular feed of tips and stuff for photographers to help them kind of achieve their creative vision and really fall in love with the art of photography, because it's just an incredible thing. I mean, here we are, two friends from around the world, Italy and Colorado, hanging out together. This is great. I mean, without photography we wouldn't be doing this. It's amazing.
Sure.
I love it.
Without Google Plus, that
I know. Got to keep Google Plus around.
Google Plus is great. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, photography is great. Think about this, and oh, look at this. I wanted to bring this down. So I signed up for your newsletter, and as promised, you delivered this cool postcard to me. I think that's the coolest thing, and this is right from Italy. I love it. And this postcard's like, not just a postcard off the rack, it's your photograph. I love it. So I want to say thanks for this.
You should do the same. I mean, I did not copyright that idea. So.
Yeah, no, if you sign up for our newsletter, we send you 7 days worth of photo tips that are basically founded on funny failures that we've have occurred to us over the years. And so yeah, if you just go to thephotofrontier.com/newsletter, you can sign up for it. And the first story is a funny failure of mine, and I think you'll all get a kick out of it.
So on a bit of a tangential path, but since you mentioned newsletters and so on, do you feel like having a newsletter, publishing a newsletter, is a good marketing strategy for photographers nowadays?
Yeah, I don't know. I think so, because at least for us, I mean, access to somebody's email box is a pretty personal thing. So if you want to publish like personal stuff and kind of develop a relationship with your friends or fellow photographers, that's a great way to do it. All our newsletters are pretty much handcrafted by me, so if there's a typo, it's my fault. And we're really in the kind of the business of helping other people, inspiring other photographers, and really sharing what we believe is a really cool, beautiful art form that a community can get formed around. And our newsletter subscribers are basically our friends. I mean, that's what they are. And so I enjoy that communication, and it's still a pretty great way to talk to people. It seems like the world of social media, where a lot of people invest kind of their time, is always changing. I mean, Facebook is kind of constantly restricting or publishing content. You don't know what those algorithms are. Who knows what the future of Google is? I don't know. I'm not a Googler. So it's tough. But email addresses have always kind of been kind of a mainstay and a consistent thing. And I enjoy. I mean, when my newsletters go out, they're from my address. So if you hit reply, it's coming right to Colorado, and I can answer it, and it's a neat thing. And we've developed a lot of great friendships through that newsletter. And cool stuff like that.
Sorry, go ahead, Mathieu.
I'm saying newsletters are probably more direct as well. I mean, it goes right into the inbox of people that want to follow the website. So it's like with social media, they might see or not see the news if they're not on their computer, on their mobile that time. And as you said, Facebook often, I mean, we have a Facebook page, and only like 10% of our people who like the page are actually getting the content, in the daily content. So it's, I mean, I think newsletters are a good way to work. It's as long as people don't think it's spam, it's
right.
They subscribe to it, so the first place. So I think it's a good way to update.
Yeah, I think it's important to have content that is relevant and not too overly spammy commercial, not pushing too much. But as you said, Justin, just use that as a way to keep a relationship with people who are your friends, and tell them about something that interests you and that might be interesting to them too.
Yeah, like the newsletter we have coming out this week is about Belize, but one of the coolest things we discovered there was this amazing hot sauce, and the company down there is actually going to be bringing it to the States next year, and that's the kind of stuff we share in our newsletters, is these little discoveries and this kind of that are interesting at a photographic level, but also for travelers and people that what I found with photographers is they have such a vast interest. They're really smart, unique, creative people, and they want to hear maybe more than just the photograph. So we kind of add stuff like that, and and I got your newsletter last week, and it had like some great free downloads for calendars, and I thought that was like super cool. I loved it.
Cool. So you mentioned the issue of communities, and I believe you just started or are about to start a new community. I think it's called We35.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah. So this is we're assembling a crack team of research scientists. We got our first official doctor on board today. Actually, he's an optometrist, so we've got street cred now. We have actually a PhD behind it. But what We35 is about is an extension of the research my friend, co-founder here at the Photo Frontier began with an experiment. We went to the central coast of California this spring with nothing more than our X100s, and basically saw what we could do for 5 days, and we documented that kind of evolution in thinking. I mean, it was very frustrating at the beginning, especially being surrounded by beautiful seascapes. A 35mm equivalent lens isn't, the most kind of breathtaking seascape lens. But over time, over the 5 days, we documented that evolution into the idea of letting go of our fears, stopping, kind of the idea of not thinking about the photos that we missed, but focusing on documented that in a book called 35mm of Coastline, and you can find it on our site. But we really loved that idea, and another photographic mentor of mine from maybe 10 years ago told me, if you want to learn about photography, all you need to do is get yourself a Leica M series and cycle film through it for a year, and that's going to teach you all you need to know about photography. Well, that's great, but it's really expensive. Film for a year as well as the Leica camera, let alone the lenses. So we kind of applied that idea to the Fuji, and what we did is wrote that book. But it's kind of it's fun to write these books and publish them and share your results. But it's a lot more interesting if you can get a group together. So we're trying to assemble a team of scientists to join this We35 project. And the idea is we're going to kind of publish our findings and share our findings over the course of the next couple months, and hopefully beyond that, other people will benefit from it. But we're trying to kind of forge some lifelong friendships with other photographers around the world, that we can then, if we're ever in Italy, or if you guys are ever in Colorado, or wherever it is, we have someone we can call and hang out with, and then we can also share that little piece of our world with the rest of the world. And I think that's what's great about photography in the modern age, is that we're able to collaborate with others. And so that's what the We35 project is about, and you can find all that information at just thephotofrontier.com/35, the number 35, and read all about it.
Is that something that is open to anybody that just has that kind of focal length and they wanted to contribute some photos or some ideas?
Yeah, it's open to anybody. The team right now, we just launched it yesterday. We have about 10 members to the team, and we'd like to add more. And so every week, or a couple times a month, we're going to publish our research and link to other people's, and other people's can link to ours, and the hashtag that we created, because basically every project now in the world, as dictated by law, needs a hashtag. Ours is We35, just WE and the number 35. So hopefully other people can use it and follow along, and it'd be great to have you guys on board. And there's a lot of other X photographers out there. It doesn't have to be an X camera; it could be any type of camera, but 35mm lens equivalent. And go out there and share your world with us, and then also kind of publish what you learned from this experiment. So we hope to get a lot of people on board. It should be really fun.
I've got my 35 equivalent.
Exactly, right here. I got my center. Mine recently.
I should be able to contribute.
Mine took a fall recently, but the hood saved it.
Yeah?
You can see that.
Mine
so.
Took a fall here, and it's.
Matt, are you going to join us? Are you in, buddy?
I don't have a camera right. I have to grab one. I'm gonna grab one. It's not a Fujito.
Hey, grab it, buddy. I want to see this thing. Is Matt in Italy as well?
Yeah, he's in Italy at the moment. But Matthew, you're going to move to Wales soon. Is that right?
That's a 35mm lens. That's a Zeiss lens on the A7S. So,
perfect. So you're in.
I'm in.
Yeah, you're part of the club. So yeah, I just want to make sure I get the websites and your Instagram feeds if you're on Instagram, and then I'll add you to the team so people can find everybody.
Oh, that would be great. It's interesting what you said about the whole project and the idea to use a one focal length. And the same happened to me when I first used the X100S last year. At the beginning, I bought it because I wanted to review for my website, and I thought at the beginning that just having one fixed focal length would be limiting me somehow. But in the end, I think with the X100S, I shot a lot of different kind of photographs, from portraits, ambient portraits, to landscape, to streets, to, I mean, it's at the beginning you think you're not gonna do a lot about it, and after a couple of months of use, you actually go to your Lightroom catalog and see you just took the most various kind of pictures. I mean,
totally.
maybe except birds, but for everything else, I mean, it's quite interesting project, yes.
Yeah, you're right on. I mean, you're really intimidated at the beginning, but you find that, at least I found that I did some of my best work. I was really proud of the work I was doing. with just a single focal length, because I knew what I was operating with. I didn't have to make decisions. I knew I could. There's only, there was an image to be crafted, but I had a limited tool set, so that was like liberating almost. It was a great experience. I can't wait to see your photos from this.
I'll put you in contact with my friend Paul Griffith, who runs a website, and he has a series of interviews also, and it's called One Camera, One Lens.
Oh,
so
yes!
You will feel at home in that kind of environment.
Yeah, I figured if somebody knew a guy, it was you.
So let's switch back for a moment to talk about gear.
Okay.
What I wanted to ask is, do you ever find yourself in a situation where you are with your X100S or the XC2 with your lenses, and you say, oh, if I had my Nikon still with me, then I would be able to do this, but I'm not?
Well, that's interesting. I'd be remiss if I said, I'd be a bit lying if I said, no, that never happens. I've had this happen to me. As a bike racing photographer, the bike racing kit is basically, a 24 to 70 2.8, a 70 to 200 2.8, a 300 2.8, maybe a fisheye in there, something like that. And the Nikon, this is awesome that I'm actually hanging out with Europeans that say the word Nikon. This is great. I'm super excited about this. So I might actually slip into Nikon in my world, but I'm going to try to stay with Nikon, which is cool. And I'm also going to say bokeh. But those are like military-grade, three-dimensional, like lock-on focus systems. I mean, I feel like they took some sort of GPS guided missile or something, took the technology out of it and put it to use in like a very peaceful manner inside those cameras. I mean, the focus in those is amazing. And when you have a person sprinting to the line, at 40 miles an hour or whatever, and trying to focus with Fuji, not going to happen. So the continued focusing is really limited in my experience with the Fujis. Now, I've shot a little bit with the XT1. One of my friends has it, and it seemed better, but it's still not, the 3D locking focus systems of the Nikons. So there is a limiting. I wish I had that there. So there's definitely a separation between Fuji and the other cameras. And I don't think that's a mirrorless thing. I just think that's they haven't invested yet or in a focus technology that has nothing to do with the prism. But
well, since you, yeah.
So
I was saying, since you mentioned the Tour de France that you mentioned that you would like to go shoot. I interviewed a few weeks ago. I interviewed Gordon Lang, who is the editor of CameraLabs.com.
Yeah. Yep.
And he followed the Tour de France this year with mostly using a Sony A6000.
Right.
And he was amazed by the capability of that small camera to get the focus consistently right on moving subjects that were moving very fast, like cyclists running downhill from a climb on the Tour de France, and they're running downhill at 80 or 90 kilometers per hour. So he was pretty impressed with the results in terms of good focus, locking, and accuracy and speed.
Yeah, I've never used the Sony, but I followed Gordon's stuff during that, and I think he was doing it more as a fan, so he wasn't actually having to publish work. And what I've noticed is, if you're working for a magazine or a publishing agency or whatever it is, you can get sharp images with the Fujis, but you can't be guaranteed, that you need that type of guarantee when you're doing editorial work. So I think a lot of people can go out and make awesome images using these systems, but when you have to make that image and there's no margin for error, I don't know if I could say that for Fuji. I haven't used the Sony, so I can't say that.
Yeah, it makes
I used the So I
Yeah,
used the one for a couple of sports events. It was an editorial, so I was free to go back home and see all the picture, and I didn't have any pressure on me. But I did see that with the X-T1, if you manage to understand exactly how the focus system works and to set the right feature, to have the right setting on the camera, it can really do the job. Not like a Nikon camera, not like a Canon camera, but they really made an improvement from the previous the earlier X models. But yes, there's still a gap with DSLRs. The A6000 has a very fast autofocus. It's actually better than the Fuji. Yeah, with the Fuji, it has always been the weak point with Fuji cameras. Now with X-T1 it's getting better, and I think that in 1 or 2 years, I think Fuji cameras can really have a great autofocus system. I mean, in 2 years they really increased a lot the performances, so I'm quite positive on the next generation of cameras. But I agree. I mean, a professional DSLR camera will always be in focus for these kind of events. I mean, you can trust that 100%.
Yeah,
with Fuji, you may trust it like 70%, but that 30% can be a problem if you work for a magazine or a newspaper and the photo needs to be ready 10 minutes later. So
yeah, there's a lot of moments you can't miss there in event photography. But when they get there, I'm excited for it because those are pretty sweet cameras.
So I think you wanted to maybe show us some of your photos.
Oh yeah, I didn't know. I mean, these interviews are fun. I love chatting, but maybe if we just wanted to look at a couple, I wasn't sure. Let me pop in here real quick and. This will be, and I guess edit this out and polish it up here in a second, but I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, so we'll just go through just a couple photos if you wanted to ask questions or whatever, but we were just in Belize, and I just, with the X100S, and something that I haven't talked about, you guys probably know this as well, is it's such an non-imposing camera. People are very receptive to it. They're not frightened by the X100S, and it really allows you to kind of develop a rapport with your subject that you normally wouldn't be able to. So, you know, here's a Belizean farmer who was gracious enough to let us onto his land because we didn't have huge cameras. We just had these little cameras, and then he was, you know, really happy to, you know, allow us to photograph him. So it was a really cool experience that you might not get if you're kind of toting around, you know, a 2.8 zoom, because it's just a massive imposing lens. Trying to think what else, and you know, another situation where you're able just to photograph people brilliantly with these small mirrorless systems. They're quiet. People aren't intimidated by them. They're just a fun little camera to take around. And you know, Don Ramon right here was more than happy to pose for a photo. Same thing here. You know, Mark Morgan, a great bike mechanic in Hopkins, Belize. No fear of these cameras. It's just really kind of a cool experience to photograph people with them.
Can you tell us a bit about your workflow? Do you shoot those in JPEG or RAW?
Yeah. So, with I don't know, I kind of have two very distinct workflows. This is a JPEG out of the camera. That's a JPEG out of the camera. That was not. That's a VSCO preset. But what I do is I basically my X series cameras are set for both JPEG and RAW, so I can do work with both files if need be. And then also what I've gotten really into is the RAW conversions in camera. You know, if you have some downtime or you're on a bus or a transport, you can kind of go through some of your photos and edit them and just do the raw conversion in camera, and so those JPEGs that come out are amazing. Like I'm almost positive I photographed Mark in color and then just did the JPEG or the raw conversion in camera with the X100S, and I thought it looked great. So.
Do you do much sharing while on the road?
Yeah, we post to like we posted a bunch of our stuff in Belize recently to our Instagram, which is just the Photo Frontier on Instagram, and then also on Instagram personally I share a lot of stuff, and I'm looking forward to Wi-Fi with these I think the X100T now has Wi-Fi in it. I never liked the iFi cards that much, but especially since they don't have dual card slots. But for Wi-Fi, I've really fallen in love with it. What about you guys? Do you guys love it?
I do use the Wi-Fi feature on my XE2 once in a while. If I'm traveling, I will post maybe a couple, 2 or 3 shots a day. What I normally do, I will shoot RAW, or if I'm doing street, I might even shoot directly JPEG. But most of the time, I will shoot RAW, convert to JPEG in camera, and then use the Wi-Fi feature to transfer that to my iPhone, and then share directly online from the iPhone.
Okay, yeah. I think similar workflow. I use the iPad and Snapseed. I think that's like the best digital darkroom going for the road right there.
Yeah, I used it a couple of times when I need to share something quickly for work, or sometimes I use the phone to compose the shot if my camera is down on the ground, and instead of lying on the ground to take the shot, I just use the smartphone and to see my shot, and it's quite neat. It's useful for these kind of things as well.
Okay, so you're actually using it as a capture tool.
Yeah, I use it sometimes and a capture tool, and I also got the trigger trap, which is you connect it to the USB port of your camera, and then you have a smartphone app that you can do time lapse or start trace or long exposures. So you basically use the smartphone as a remote, and but it's interesting because you don't use Wi-Fi, so batteries should last longer than with Wi-Fi.
Oh, yeah. That's slick. I have to check that out. That sounds like a great solution.
Yeah, it's a very interesting solution. Yeah, it's a trigger trap. They do it for all kind of cameras, DSLR, mirrorless, and the app is free, so it's quite interesting. You can do even hyperlapse and HDR work. It works great. I mean, I used it in August this summer. I did a star trace shot, 600 pictures, almost 3 hours of basically waiting for the star trace to finish, and with just the phone connected to the camera and the timer that was slowly going down. So it's interesting. Yeah.
The battery on the phone didn't run out.
No, it didn't. It didn't. I had an iPhone 5S, which isn't really great for a battery. Often at the end of the day, the battery is already dead. But in this case, if you just turn on Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and even 3G or 4G, and you just keep the basic connection if someone needs to call you, then it's fine. I mean, I think it ran out of 50% of the battery for 3 hours at night, so it wasn't bad in the end. And for the camera, it's better because you don't use Wi-Fi, so the battery of the camera lasts longer as well.
That's great.
So this is the trigger trap, which
trigger trap,
for
yes.
People who don't know what that is a device that will connect with a cable your smartphone or tablet with your camera, and will let you drive the camera.
So it's basically like a remote control, but on your phone, right?
Exactly. Use your phone instead of a remote. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's cool. But to answer your question, I do some post-processing, and this is images Nick or Google Plus, whatever, Silver Effects Pro, and then this is a JPEG out of camera from Costa Rica. I mean, just the Fuji JPEGs are just pretty awesome. I love them. Oh, this is the other cool thing. That's me and my buddy Armando. But you could just give the camera to anyone, and it takes great photos. Like, we were with our guide up there in Belize, and it just did a great job. So I think it's cool that you can just hand it to anybody else and put it in, auto aperture, auto shutter speed, however you want to set it up, and the flash is realistic, and I like it. Oh, this is the book I was talking about, and then these are just a few images from our experiment in Central California with the X100S, and it was a great experience. I loved it. So I'll get out of there and share back the screen here.
These were some great images, really.
Oh, thanks.
The potential of those small cameras, and your words of failing me in English, your proficiency, of course, with using it.
Yeah,
I
think everybody should get one of those.
Sorry?
I think everybody should get a X100S or something similar, and really just learn everything they can about photography. I think it's a great system. I love it very much. The only complaint I have is I wish it was weather sealed, and I wish it had 2 card slots, because I always fear corrupt cards.
Yeah, the dual SD card slot is something that a lot of people are asking to every mirrorless brand.
Yeah.
And every time, especially with the flagship cameras, they always hope to have dual card slots, and apparently it's something that they don't think it's necessary at the moment. But it's true that I heard a lot of photographers complaining about this. I know some professional photographers that don't consider a Nikon DF a professional camera because it only has one one slot, so it's...
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not a pro, so I don't care much about that. But really, one thing that makes this thing here and the XE2 in a minor way, but especially this one has changed for me, is that it's put back the fun into taking photos.
That's
bring
exactly
it with
right.
me everywhere I go, and even if I'm not going out with the intent of doing a photo shoot or anything, it's in my coat pocket or it's in my small bag, and I can use it anywhere and everywhere. So that's just fun, and people should do that because it's fun. I don't care if it's the autofocus is not snappy or it's not full frame. Who cares? I mean, I can take more photos and have more fun.
That's what it's all about. I mean, you're right on the money there. It's really like revived my love of photography. But do you do your strangers project with the XE1 or your X100S?
With both. When I was
Okay.
I'm not doing that. For the people who don't know about this, for a few months, starting this year, I've done this project which is called A Stranger a Day, where every day I would approach a stranger in the street and ask to take their portrait. And I would most of the time use the X100S. Sometimes I would use the XE2, depending on what I had with me at the time.
Yep.
I witnessed you one time. I witnessed Ugo one time taking a portrait in Turin doing a Fuji walk. So I saw exactly how he worked, how he observed, and he approached. It was a couple, I think, a young couple. They were tourists in Turin, and it was interesting to see.
I love the project. It's fun. I follow it on Google Plus. I enjoy it.
It's a lot of fun, and it's something that I would recommend anybody to do it, even if you're not a portrait shooter, if you're not into street photography or something. This is something that I never thought of doing before, just approaching strangers on the street, because I'm naturally quite a shy person. So for me, the thought of approaching somebody in the street and asking to take the portrait and explaining to them why I was doing that before I started doing that sounded as something really, really bizarre and outside of my comfort zone. But I pushed myself to do it, and having with me a small camera at all times really helped.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have to think I need to go outside to take some photos of somebody, and to what lens should I use, and put a largish camera lug it around for a few hours while I was waiting for the right subject and so on. And that's a totally different perspective. So it worked.
Did more than work. I mean, look at that. Took you out of your comfort zone, created a cool project, and then like broke down all these barriers that divide us by sharing these cool stories. These people that's awesome stuff. That's like why you should go out and do photography. That's super cool.
Okay, so Mathieu, is there anything else that you would like to?
Yeah, one last question. You mentioned at the beginning mobile photography, and now mobile photography is getting bigger and bigger, and brands are releasing new phones that, I mean, Panasonic recently released a phone that has a 1-inch sensor, so it's becoming quite serious for photography from an image quality point of view. More newspapers are accepting photos taken from smartphones for their daily editorial work, and recently I think that also the Magnum agency accepted the first photographer they use an iPhone as well. So what do you think is going to increase more and is going to become more and more popular?
Yeah, I get interviewed about it a lot. People somehow just always think I have my finger on the pulse of mobile photography, and I have for a long time. So they always ask me these questions, and I think my standard answer is I don't want it to be called mobile photography anymore. I really get kind of frustrated with even myself referring to it as something different. I mean, it really is photography. The new iPhone 6. I even think the iPhone 5 had more power in its sensor than my original Nikon D1X, right? I mean, so it had more horsepower than my original digital camera. So I think it's just going to be. I don't think we're going to have that separation anymore. It's just going to be photography, and who cares what the device is? Because I mean, nowadays, especially like we were just talking about with transfer, I mean, you capture it on this one device and then you transfer it to your phone or your tablet and edit it. I mean, that's still kind of mobile photography, right? There's a lot going on there, and so I just hope that that we get to a point where because photography should really be inclusive, it should be about building these communities, it should be about sharing what's great about the world and its people with other people, that we kind of, as photographers, stop thinking less and less about the gear and think more and more about the process. So I think it's, I mean, there's obviously going to be incredible advances in technology as we progress on mobile devices. That are just gonna. I mean, the cameras that we're talking about today are going to be irrelevant in the future as things go along. Especially, I think the new iPhone opened up the API to developers so that they can create manual controls for the camera. I mean, that's basically an X100S series camera now in your phone, minus some great things like the flash and built-in ND filters and all that. But so I think it's going to continue to progress for sure. And I think it's great. I think it's awesome because one thing that the mobile photography has done is opened up this whole world of photography to these other people that have this incredible creative potential, but maybe just didn't see the cost of entry as an acceptable avenue for them. And now with their phones, they're doing incredible stuff. So I think if it does continue, which it will. We're all going to benefit from it. There's just going to be so much beautiful imagery, amazing people doing amazing work out there with it that might not have had the opportunity in the past. So I'm excited for it. It's going to continue to evolve, and I don't know what necessarily the future holds as far as gear goes, but I think whatever it is, it's going to be really good. It's going to be great. Everybody's going to win. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Well, I think this was an awesome conversation. I want to thank you for throwing around so many ideas for our listeners to pick up and go execute on them and basically just go out and shoot and don't be held back by whatever problems with technology or gear they might have, because anything works, right? use your
Totally.
phone, use your mirrorless camera, use your DSLR, but just go out and take pictures and make people happy with by sharing your pictures. Right?
You're exactly right. Just go out, take pictures, and make people happy. Because when it comes down to it, they're all just boxes with holes in them. So get out there, take your camera, and have fun.
Great. So anything else you want to add before we
No,
close
I want to add thank you. This has been, as you said, a great conversation. I've enjoyed it. Hopefully other people do too. It was great to finally meet you for the first time, other than through our online discussions through Google Plus or whatever. And then Matt, it was awesome to meet you for the very first time. I'm excited to follow your work and see what you do, and hopefully you guys get on board with We35 and show us some images of whales in Italy. And I just want to thank you again for the opportunity. I really enjoyed this.
You're welcome. So goodbye. Take care.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Bye-bye.
See you, everybody. Okay, bye.
Bye.